All right, so I'm going to call to order the Site Plan Review and Appearance Board for Wednesday, October 26, 2023. Rochelle, if you can please call roll.
Sure. Allison Thomas.
Here.
Linda Perdot.
Here.
Benjamin Baffer.
Here.
Carol Perez.
Here.
Stephen Cohen.
Here.
Annette Gray is not here at this time. Dana Adler.
Here. Okay, so before we start the meeting, I would like to very much thank the City Commission and the Mayor for passing a resolution in support of the State of Israel. And I'd really like to ask everybody to please stand up for a moment of silence for the victims of all this tragedy, as well as for those who have been kidnapped. Thank you. All right, let's move on to business. Next item is the approval of the agenda. We do have one change to the agenda, which is 9A has been postponed. So we'll move forward with items 9B and 9C. And do we have any other changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing and hearing none. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
And a second.
Carol seconds.
I'm sorry, who made the first? Thank you.
And Michelle, if you could please call roll.
Okay, Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Linda Perdot.
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer.
Yes.
Carol Perez.
Yes.
Stephen Cohen.
Yes.
Annette Gray is absent. Dana Adler.
Yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from both October 23rd and September 27th, 2023. I've reviewed them and they appear accurate. Does anyone have any changes to the meeting minutes? Seeing and hearing none, can please someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes. We do both at the same time.
You can.
And a second?
Second.
Michelle, if you could please call roll.
Okay. Allison Thomas.
Yes.
Linda Perdot.
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer.
Yes.
Carol Perez.
Yes.
Stephen Cohen.
Yes.
Annette Gray will wait until the next item to vote, or should we wait?
Let's just wait for her to sit
Okay.
down. It's just approval of the minutes, Ms. Gray.
Do you approve the minutes?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
Dana Adler.
Yes. All right. At this point, we'd like to swear in anybody who will be speaking before the board on any matter regarding public comments or on any agenda item. Please rise and be prepared to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. By the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Rochelle. At this point, if there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak on any item that is not on the agenda and that is in the purview of the Site Plan Review and Appearance Board, we would welcome your appearance. Yes, sir. Please come to the podium right here.
Quick question, 9A, you said is postponed, is that the edge?
That's the pineapple.
Okay, that's what I'm here for. Postponed. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it's been
It
postponed.
wasn't on the website, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if there's anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing and hearing none. So if you're going to come and speak, please use the podium to my left. The city is presenting from the dais in front of us. And please note that we're being recorded, so if we could always speak into the microphone, that's helpful. There is no consent agenda tonight, so now I'm just going to read through the quasi-judicial rules. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The city commission, board members, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the number of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. Okay. So I believe, Ms. Rodriguez, we are ready to enter our first agenda item into the record.
So I'll state for the record, my name is Susie Rodriguez. I'm a planner for the City of Delray Beach. I would like to enter file number 2022-267 into the record. This is for agenda item 9B, which is a Class 5 site plan application for Fifth Third Bank located at 5070 West Atlantic Avenue within the Delray Landings Plaza. The applicant is here today to present.
Okay. Has there been any ex parte communication on this item?
No.
No. Okay. I believe we have Mr. Lewis. And if you could say your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Matthew Scott. I'm a zoning attorney with the law firm of Dene, Miskell and Backman with an address of 14 Southeast 4th Street in Boca Raton. Here on behalf of the applicant, we have Benjamin here as well, so they'll be introduced in a moment. We have representatives from Fifth Third Bank, as well as the architecture team and the engineering team. Before bringing them up, just want to give a little bit of a background. As staff said, this is a site plan application for a new Fifth Third Bank at 5070 West Atlantic Avenue. And so I just sort of want to set the table a little bit, give some background of where the proposed project is. It is located in the Delray Commons shopping mall, which is on the southwest corner of Atlantic Avenue and Military Trail. You may be familiar with it. There's a Taco Bell there that has a really interesting mural. And then more recently, the owner of the overall shopping center has drastically improved it with a new Sprouts Farmers Market. And so where you see the red dot, or a little bit to the west of it, is sort of the last piece of the shopping center. Interestingly enough, it used to be a bank years and years ago. It was demolished, and so it sat vacant for many years as sort of a grass lot. We're here tonight requesting site plan approval for a new Fifth Third Bank. And so here is the specific parcel. So it fronts on West Atlantic Avenue, and then has a general commercial zoning, and it's in the Four Corners Overlay District. And so the use is permitted, of course, once we complete the site plan process. Prior to getting here, we went to the Planning and Zoning Board and we requested master plan amendment approval. That's a step that's required prior to getting here to allow for a change in the overall uses and configuration of the master plan, because the shopping center is part of a master plan under your code. And so just one more aerial here, just showing that it's an existing grass lot. And so as I said, it's kind of like the missing piece here. This is a drastically improved shopping center. The architecture for the shopping center has been completely redone. The landscaping's been redone. There's some other existing uses in the shopping center. And so we're now seeking approval to develop this site with a new bank. So then here are just some other images. With that being said, I want to introduce our project engineer to talk about the site and landscaping plans. From there, the architect will get up and talk you through the landscaping for this project.
Good evening. My name is Brett Neverill. I'm with Infinity Engineering Group, 1208 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, 33602. Good evening. So we are here today for New Fifth Third Bank, we are, like we're saying, we're part of Lot 2. It's next to the Taco Bell. We are utilizing all the access drives that exist both north and south off Atlantic, and then the internal ones east and west. So our access connections are to existing internal access drives. The developer is installing a buffer from, a sidewalk from connecting to Atlantic all on the west side of the property going down, and so we will also connect our pedestrian connection to that, and so we'll have pedestrian connection from the sidewalk that the developer is building to our building, and it'll also be connected to the shopping center plan south. We do have a 2-lane drive-through. It is required to have 100 foot of stacking, which we exceed that, so we do meet that requirement. We do, if you look to the bottom of the site itself, to the building itself, we have that cross-hatched area. That's going to be future electronic vehicle charging stations for our customers and for other customers of the shopping center. Our water, sewer, and electric is all internal to the shopping center, so we are connecting to on-site water and sewer and electric in the back. It's really near the trash enclosure itself. They're all existing utilities within the access drive and actually running through our property. Trash is also going to be, waste management is also going to be planned south too. So we do have a trash enclosure to service the Fifth Third Bank, and so access to that trash enclosure will be internally through the shopping center for approach and pickup and leave. The bank itself is 1,820 square feet. I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but we do have a bike rack in front of the building for our customers. And so again, the handicap is the upper left. You would park there, walk across what we call the piano key striping to get to the bank for our ADA customers. And then we have a sidewalk along the building for the other customers on the west side of the north-south access drive. And that's really it. Stormwater is also internal to the shopping center. If you look at the overall historical bank, we are actually less impervious than what existed back in the original bank. And so we are just internally connecting for stormwater too. So I know it's quick. Do you have any specific questions I can help you with?
We'll get to that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Rodriguez for the city, please.
Well, this is just the site. We have the landscape architect here, we have the architect here. So I'm here just to talk about the site plan. So if Patrick can talk about the landscape in itself, so.
Okay.
Just click this? Or?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Let me, how do I go back? Thank you. For the record, my name is Patrick Cunningham, and I'm a sole proprietor. I work out of 519 Sapphire Drive, Sarasota, Florida, 34234. I'm a registered landscape architect since 1998. When we approach this project, you begin to cut away, you sculpt an elephant by cutting away everything that doesn't look like an elephant. And so when we get this site, there is a lot of pervious property on here. We're required to have a sidewalk on the west property line, which really begins to limit the amount of landscaping that you can have. Now, we have met code, and we have used plans that will meld into the environment pretty well. There are some existing live oaks on the west property line, but because of the sidewalk that's being installed, those live oaks have to be pulled out. That's not real conducive for parking lots and sidewalks and curbs, so we're suggesting to put in green buttonwoods on the west property line and to bring those green buttonwoods into the property. We have some beautiful landscaping with pink tabebuias in the parking islands. We are maintaining the crepe myrtles that are up on Atlantic Boulevard, and we're adding a crepe myrtle because of the quantity numbers that are required. And we are not installing anything on the east property line because Taco Bell has a significant buffer there. By adding more plants in that area, it would be very cumbersome. The plant material wouldn't really grow. The one thing we do have as a bank is we have a 50-foot, we have a Florida state statutes that require 50 feet around the ATM machine. We can't install any plant material that grows to be larger than 24 inches in caliper, and we can't have it grow any higher than 36 inches in height. So that pretty much limits, that takes out all the oak trees, that takes out all the royal palms. So you begin to limit the material that you have. As I zip through here, this is the proposed shrub materials. It's a mix of native and non-native material. They require low fertilization, they're high drought tolerance, and you can see the trees that are proposed on the site as well. And that concludes mine.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm Greg Walden with BDG Architects, 400 North Ashley Drive, Tampa, Florida. Benjamin is our permitting coordinator. I'll actually be the one speaking to the architecture today. This is the floor plan of the standard prototype. I want to point out Plan North, just the layout of the building itself. There are controlled spaces such as the cash room, and then we also have our lounge. So we don't really have an opportunity for fenestration in the rear side of the bank. And then also, if you look at the left side of this plan, similar in terms of the cash room and restrooms. So we do try to make sure we are including fenestration as you get forward of that. Let me go back to the standard. The standard prototype actually it does not have the wood tone that you see over this entry sequence. We've popped up the tower a little more than the standard prototype. We didn't want to come in. We had early conversations to not come in and bring a prototypical chain into Delray. So some items that you will note is the wood panel. That's something you'll see as I get forward in the slides. The Taco Bell adjacent to us had used a similar design scheme in terms of a cladding, a ship's lap cladding. We wanted to tie in with that in terms of the out parcels. And then the bump out that you see right here in the front, just a minor bump out there in terms of parapet height. We do the same thing in the opposing corner in the rear. And those are actually going to be intended to do a custom mural. Fifth Third's engaged a local mural artist that they're in the process of going through concepts with right now. And I understand that to be a separate process. We don't have that artwork in here, but we do want to demonstrate where those pieces are going to be. And so again, the niche in the rear and this bump out are further to define that area that will contain the mural. And the other thing that we've done too is the standard prototype. All of the sheet metal and any kind of trim is a mill finish. We've gone to a dark bronze finish to coordinate with the adjacent parcel or out parcel. And then here's our palette. The one thing that we do have that's standard to the Fifth Third prototype is the blue and the green accent colors. That's something we did want to hang on to because it does let the public know this is a Fifth Third bank. But we wanted to do that in a tasteful, modern way. And some overall views of just context of the shopping center, and then you can see again the adjacent out parcel have used a similar cladding for their tower element. We don't include the cladding around the entire building. We don't want to get matchy there, but we do want to pay homage to that. And then again, the idea of bringing in the mural around the building to again give interest to the rear side as well. Here, this is the standard prototype right here, so you can see it doesn't pop up the tower quite as much. Doesn't pop up there where the mural will be, and it is the light mill finish colors, and does not have the cladding. And these exhibits just show where the mural is intended. Where the red is here and here, that will be the primary, more dense portions of the mural. And my understanding, current concepts, they're looking to do some lighter line work to tie those together around the building. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
And so just before wrapping it up, I just want to make a couple comments. So I think that the architect spoke a little bit about prototypes and how the city staff suggested that we not just bring a prototype. I think that's, in my experience working in a lot of cities in South Florida, it's really smart when your staff knows to ask for more, because unless you ask, right, a lot of larger companies want to bring the prototype. And so what we have here is a clearly superior design. Obviously, you're not weighing in on the mural, but you can envision that this Taco Bell, I think, came out great. So my kids talk about it every time we drive by it. And so we're hopeful that this Fifth Third Bank, if approved, will add to that streetscape there of being a really interesting, new, fresh-looking shopping center. And then again, as I said at the beginning, we already gone through the planning and zoning board for the master plan piece. And so if this is approved tonight, and we're able to get under construction, this would be the first Fifth Third Bank in the city of Delray Beach. And so with that being said, we'd be happy to answer any questions after staff's presentation. And of course, we respectfully request approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Ms. Rodriguez for the city, please.
So, as the applicant stated, the proposed Class 5 is for a standalone bank with a drive-through. And the proposal also includes a request for an exception of the max 4 feet for the parapet to screen the rooftop equipment. So that's also included in this request.
Okay.
The property is zoned within the planned commercial district and it's within the Four Corners overlay district. To note, the modification for the MDP was approved at the last month's PZB meeting. The modification included 5 waivers, and 3 of them were affecting for the out parcel that's the proposed bank is on. These waivers include the following: to allow a 9.5-foot landscape buffer instead of the 30-feet buffer, allow a reduction of the required 4,000 square feet structure size to 1,820 square feet for the bank, and to allow the parcel's east perimeter interior landscape buffer to be reduced from 10 feet to 5 feet. Also to note, the application was done prior to the Chapter 2 amendment, so the staff report and this presentation will be to the Chapter 2 prior to the adopted code. The request includes the construction of a new 1,820 square foot bank with a drive-through, and it will consist of 2 drive-throughs of the 1 VTM and 1 ATM lane. The proposed includes a total of 12 parking spaces and overall landscape improvements throughout the site. The Class 5 requires a full review of the performance standards. The PC zoning is consistent with the GC land use, and the use is permitted. As the applicant stated, the water, sewer, drainage, all that is existing on site. It will be connected on site. The Palm Beach County traffic performance standards, they're met with generating less than 20 peak hours, and the solid waste is also deemed sufficient capacity. School and parks is not included. It's not applicable for this project. The standards in 323 are generally met with the proposed building design, lighting, and landscaping not anticipated to impact visibility or create any distractions. The bank actually replaces a former bank that was demolished prior to Taco Bell. And bringing back this bank is not anticipated to have any negative impact on the neighborhood. It actually will encourage the provision of commercial activities to serve the surrounding neighborhood. The development standards are generally met, although the MDP required a waiver for the lot coverage in the open space. It's good to know that the actual out parcel in itself did meet the 75% for lot coverage and 25% for open space. The perimeter buffer to the front needed a waiver to the 30 feet, as only 9.5 could be provided due to this drive aisle. And the side buffer, also adjacent to the Taco Bell, had to be reduced from the 10 feet to the 5 feet, but it will be adjacent to their landscape buffer. All the other buffers and setbacks have been met. Twelve parking spaces are provided, meeting the required 8, and 4 bicycle spaces provided are meeting the required 1. In regards to the height, the overall height is in compliance. The parapet, however, is a range of roughly 3 to 11 inches higher than the 4 feet. That's maximum. The elevation depicts the need of the parapet height to screen the rooftop equipment. And a justification statement has been provided, and the board shall determine if granting the height exception meets the standards set in 4618E. The landscape improvements are, they comply. They're providing new trees along the west and south, and the existing trees to the east and the north are remaining. The minimum requirement for architectural elevations found in 4618A indicate that the building must show proper design concepts and be appropriate to the surroundings. The following criteria must be met or the application shall be disapproved. The proposed structure must be in good taste in design and should contribute to the overall image of the city. The exterior design shall not materially depreciate the value and the appearance of the area, and the structure is generally supposed to be in harmony with the area. The development actually incorporates many elements, as stated by the applicant, from the surrounding developments, such as the wood panels, the neutral colors, the dark metal. The proposed colors includes the gray and the signature Fifth Third blue green. I also have a material if the board would like to see that too. And then, as the applicant stated, to reduce that gray blank wall, they are proposing a mural in the areas shown in red. The Taco Bell also has a mural, and Sprouts was proposed to have a mural too. The mural is not included in this application review. It will require a separate application, but something to know. These are your board motions, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'm not sure who to address this to. I think it's Mr. Scott. Do you have a rebuttal from the city?
No rebuttal.
Okay. And Ms. Rodriguez, do you have anything else? Okay, no rebuttal there. And then, okay, now we go to board comments. So why don't we start with you, Ms. Perdue?
I like the project. I think it looks good. I'll be interested to see what the mural is going to be. I don't have a problem with the extra height. I think it'll be a nice addition to the area.
Great. Mr. Cohen?
Yep. I'm just wondering why there's so many waivers on this project. Is it just because it's an odd-shaped lot, or because it's
Sure. So I can speak to that. Yeah. The shopping center was annexed into the city with an existing drive aisle in front of the space.
Yeah.
And so that configuration can't change because it's needed for access to the shopping center and to the Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So that addressed that waiver. And then the other waivers that were approved by the Planning and Zoning Board that you're not weighing in on, other than just being curious about them, were just relating to the fact that we had slightly less pervious area than is required by code, and slightly more impervious. And so when you're trying to upgrade an old shopping center that has existing out parcels, such as the Taco Bell and the Burger King, it's going to be challenging to meet all current code requirements because you don't have a blank slate, right? You have the opposite of a blank slate. You're trying to make it all work. And so you see this aerial, we're trying to complete the pieces of this puzzle in the constraints that we have. And so we had some very minor deviations from code that led to those waivers.
Right. So, yeah, can I just, sorry, interrupt? I had the same question when I was speaking to the city planners this morning. So I think, why don't we pass it off to Ms. Rodriguez, because it had to do with the master development program as a whole for the whole area. So, yeah.
Yes, so the actual MDP had to be modified in order to bring in this for this new bank. It's one of the requirements that is in Four Corners. Like the applicant said, there was some modifications, especially with this site taking up a lot of the green that was provided. The lot coverage was going to be increased to 77%, more than the 75%, and the open space, which the vacant lot actually made up a lot of that for the MDP, was now lowered to 22%, which was the required is 25%. So that was two of the waivers that was with the MDP. For the other ones that are addressing more for this, that front yard landscape, as he mentioned, it has that drive. They can't meet the 30 feet, they only can do the 9.5 feet. We included that in the MDP because it's something that is actually going to be with the whole development, not just the actual parcel. It's something that's going to be reoccurring every time there's a new project on the site. The east perimeter landscape buffer, due to the Taco Bell, it's actually one parcel. It's going to be split. The parcels are going to be able to provide that 10 feet, 5 feet and 5 feet on each side. The 10 feet and 10 feet would have provided a 20 feet buffer in between. It would have been a little bit too much between the Taco Bell and the proposed Fifth Third. And then the structure square footage, Four Corners usually has for 4,000 square feet. Four Corners was also initiated with the idea of having residential, high density, with the incentive programs to bring in workforce housing. A lot of these developments after Four Corners was initiated, there hasn't been any request for that type of specific development. So it's taking in with the commercials that are existing and trying to work with the Four Corners initiation that was put. So that's a lot of times where these waivers are coming from.
Okay. So waiver 4, I don't quite understand that one. Like why? Minimum sized 1820 square foot bank, that is less than the required 4,000. That seems kind of backwards to me.
So the minimum that is supposed to be is 4,000 square feet.
Minimum structure size?
Minimum structure size is
Okay.
supposed to be 4,000 square feet. So
Okay.
they were reducing it to bring in 1,820.
Okay. What's the purpose of that minimum? Wouldn't it be just
So
bank like structure by structure? Like why is it 4,000 and why is it so much less than that?
So with the idea of Four Corners, it was supposed to be like that residential larger structures.
I see.
And it was something with these commercial little nodes that were put that actually never really got to happen as of right now. We've never received any request for that kind of anything that could use those incentives.
Okay. All right. That's it.
So in other words, the whole area, if I'm getting this right, the whole area was under the master development program, and the stipulations that were put in, the aim was for a different kind of development than what's coming in, and so that's why you have all these crazy waivers, because it's in what's on paper is incongruous with what's happening. That's sort of the way I understand it. I had the same question. All right, Ms. Perez.
Okay, I think first of all, thanks for your presentation. It was very good, all collectively, architecture, landscape architecture, planning. I reviewed the landscape plan. It looks fine, and even with the elevations, sometimes as plain as they are, you do have layers of landscape there from the Taco Bell, and then also you've proposed a lot of good plant material and used a lot of native plant material, which we all appreciate. So yeah, I think and I can see where the drive aisle, that connecting cross access, would really kind of reduce your numbers or of what the pervious area. But I think you did a good job, and I think it's a nice project.
Ms. Gray.
Thank you so much. I agree with Carol. I'm not a landscape architect, but I understand the choices that you made and why you made them. I understand the impetus for the waivers, and they're not self-imposed hardships. They're tied to the site and some of the development choices that we made on the books. So I'm okay with that as well. Personally, I think this should become your new standard. So thank you.
Okay. Ms. Thomas?
I echo that our staff is great, and I also want to thank all of you for doing your homework, because you hit a lot of the points that the board usually requests and then we have to delay or anticipate. So I appreciate all the challenges you had, and you gave us a great product. I agree, it's great.
Okay, Mr. Baffer.
So when I first saw the rendering, I thought, my God, this looks just like a Taco Bell. I now understand that was intentional. So, I mean, architecturally, they didn't give you much to work with. I get it. So, I mean, it looks like a small suburban bank in a suburban shopping center, and it's, probably what that site needs.
Okay. All right, yeah, I concur with my colleagues. You did a very thorough job. Staff did a very thorough job. And I have no problem. So thank you very much for your presentation. All right, so can someone make a motion to approve the project?
I'll do it. I move to approve the Class 5 site plan application, including a landscape plan and architectural elevations for a 1,820 square foot freestanding branch bank facility, Fifth Third Bank, with a drive-through and a requested height exception for the parapet exceeding the maximum 4 feet to screen the roof equipment, located at 5070 West Atlantic Avenue, by finding that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
And a second, please.
Second.
Rochelle, if you could please call roll.
Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Linda Perdot,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Stephen Cohen,
Yes.
Annette Gray,
Yes.
Dana Adler.
Yes. Congratulations, you've been approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to Delray Beach. All right, Ms. Rodriguez, when you're ready, if you can enter the next item into the record.
I would like to enter file 2022-191 into the record. This is for agenda item 9C, which is a Class 3 site plan modification for Atlantic Crossing Phase 2, specifically Buildings 2 and 4 South.
Thank you.
The applicant is here today to present.
Thank you. Has there been any ex parte communication on this item?
No.
I'm gonna step down. I'm a landscape architect and work on Atlantic Crossing.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Okay, if you can please give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, Bryce Hall, 2555 Walnut Street, Denver, Colorado, 80205.
All right. And Mr. Hull, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board, for your time this evening. I'm the architect on this project. I'm here representing the developer Edwards Intercoastal Communities. And as Ms. Rodriguez pointed out, I'm here presenting a Class 3 modification to approved Class 5 site plan. And because I'm the architect, I'm going to show a lot of pretty pictures. Ms. Rodriguez and her well-crafted staff report, it's got all the details and the technicalities, so I'm going to focus on the nice stuff here this evening. And if you'll permit me, I'm going to talk a little bit about the project as a whole before I speak about the modifications that we're presenting this evening. This is a site plan of the overall Atlantic Crossing development there, Atlantic Avenue running along the bottom of the page, Federal or 6th Avenue at the west edge, Veterans Park to the east, and First Street bordering the project there along the north edge. Phase 1 of the project is that which is west of 7th, so between 6th and 7th. There's 7 buildings total on the project, 4 are within Phase 1. Those are under construction as we speak. Phase 2 is the southeast corner of the project. Phase 3 is the northeast portion of the project. Tonight we'll be talking about Phase 2. That's the modification that we're proposing. I wanted to just talk a bit about the overall concept for, thought we might like to see some photos of the project under construction. I'm sure you've driven by it many times along the way, but you saw the site plan as it was rendered. Here's what it looks like from a drone photo today. Again, phase 1 under construction now. Phase 2, the ground has been cleared in preparation for construction of those buildings. The concept for the project of the 7 buildings that are inclusive of the Atlantic Crossing development is that the buildings themselves should be cohesive in nature, architecturally and in style, not identical to one another. They are to be varied. Much the way a city develops over time, the buildings should not look all the same. That's what a campus might look like. That's not the intent here. Yet the architecture, the varied architecture of the buildings ought to be complementary to one another. So they're all quite different. We're looking here on the screen. This is building 1. This is at the northeast corner of Atlantic Avenue and Federal. This was the first building constructed. It's a commercial building. It's got ground floor retail, restaurant use, office above. The style of this building is what I might call coastal commercial. And if we look at today, or when this drone photo was taken a few weeks ago, here's how it appears as constructed. As I'm sure you're aware, this building is occupied. There's restaurant use on the ground floor and office on the 2nd and 3rd floors of building 1. We're looking now at building 3. This is the next building north as we march up from Atlantic Avenue. We're looking at the southwest corner of building 3. That's it with the green living wall there at the corner. Building 3 is meant to be something of the Alley's Beach style, that Caribbean flair. And as we see today what building 3 looks like, again, building 3 is complete. And it's occupied, same as building 1. This is a residential building. It's got mixed use, obviously. Ground floor commercial use. There's Hampton Social, as you see there at the ground floor. I had lunch there today. It was great. And residential apartment units above. That's building 3. This is building 6 north. This is the northernmost building of that first phase of development. First Avenue there is to the left. Federal is peeling off to your right there. This is the northwest corner, the main entry lobby to this residential apartment building. And this is something of a coastal resort feel, the style of this building 6 north here. And here's how we envisioned it by rendering. Now, the angle's a bit different. I took a photo this afternoon. It looks much nicer from the ground level. Here we are. From a drone, unfortunately, it's not quite the same, but you can see how that corner is developing. Building 6 north, the one we're looking at now, will be the next building to be occupied. The general contractor is targeting a TCO for this building in mid-November. Move-ins will start, and that leaves the final building of phase 1 in the middle there. Just beyond this building, you see building 6 south. That'll be the final building completed and occupied in phase 1. So I thought it'd be beneficial to take a look at where we are today with the project and to remind the board that the concept here was the buildings are meant to be varied but complementary to one another. Now let's get to the real reason I'm here. Class 3 modification to an approved site plan. Again, this is for phase 2. That's that portion of the site that you saw from the overhead shot that the ground has been cleared. We're preparing for construction there. That's the southeast corner, just east of 7th, immediately west of Veterans, highlighted here on the site plan. Again, phase 3, the final phase, is that northeast corner of the project. Within phase 2, there are 2 structures, building 2 and building 4 south. And beneath both of those structures is a parking garage. We call that the southeast parking garage. This class 3 modification addresses all 3 of those buildings, buildings 2, 4 south, and the garage which sits below. Now, when I was last here presenting to this board in March of 22, some of you were here at that time, you may recall it, I spent a moment with my predecessor describing why. Why are we proposing modification to an approved site plan? We could execute the design as it was completed. Well, that design was begun in 2012, and we submitted it for approval in 2013, and it was approved in 2014. And checking the math, that's about a decade ago. And, you know, I reviewed my comments from back in March of 22, and I relayed a story about my travels here from Denver and how I had seen in the United Hemispheres magazine a story about the Ray. And to me, that was reflective of how the city is developing, the vibrancy of this community here in Delray Beach. And we at CapArt, and really Edwards Intracoastal, the developers of this project, has made a commitment to this community that every building that's a part of this large master development contributes to that vibrancy, is a part of this community that we can all be proud of, that you'll be proud of. And as I said at that time, this is not my building, it's not Edwards' building, this is buildings for the community, for the residents of Delray Beach. And with that in mind, as the years have passed, a decade has gone by since the original design, we reflected upon the architecture of Buildings 2 and Building 4 South and realized that as styles and tastes in the market have changed, we could do better. And our intention here tonight, mine, ours, I guess it's really just me here tonight, is to present what better looked like for us. So let's get into it. Building 2 first. Now Building 2, we're looking now at the original rendering for Building 2. Building 2, actually, oh man, can I go back? I can. Sorry. So Building 2 is on the east side of 7th. It mirrors generally Building 1. That was that first commercial building that I showed you. They're meant to kind of bookend the site there along Atlantic Avenue. And just as with Building 1, Building 2, as you see here on the screen, is a mixed-use commercial building. Ground floor retail, again, will be primarily restaurant use. The 2 floors above are office tenant space. This is the original design, as I said, and you see, just as with Building 1, it's something of a coastal commercial style. In the middle there, you can see a blue form that's a bit of an Art Deco piece, in the middle there along the front along fronting Atlantic there. Now, for Building 2, we didn't make drastic architectural changes, but what I would call is some refinement of this style. So here, oh, that's the old one. Bummer. Okay, here is a rendering of Building 2 in its current state. Again, you'll see that much of the character that was originally in the design is represented here. Primary finished materials are stucco. There's white stucco. You can see some tan color stucco and then blue accent stucco there in the middle, the Art Deco component. There's stone base, finished wood accenting at sunshades and the windows, a rather handsome commercial building. Other really than a modification and refinement of the architectural style, the function of this building remains unchanged. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Building 2. I can answer questions. I'd rather spend time talking a bit more about Building 4 because the changes to Building 4 are a bit more significant. Here we're looking at the original version of Building 4. So we're looking at the southwest corner of Building 4. This would be as if I was standing or hovering above, I guess I should say, 7th Avenue, the spline of the site there, looking at Building 4. You see there the porte cochere, that's the primary valet drop-off to serve the entirety of this project. That's where if you're a commercial customer, you'd valet your car at this point. And the style of Building 4, as we imagined it back in 2012, is this Meisner-esque Mediterranean revival. And you can see it's rather ornate in nature. We've got a tower form, we've got a rotunda form there along the ground floor, and we've got punched openings and tile roofs. And that is there's a place for this type of architecture, but as we reflected upon it, we didn't feel that it was reflective of the style and the market today. So we're proposing something different. This is a shot, same view generally speaking, of that southwest corner of the building. You see the left edge of the site, the porte cochere with the pool above, of course, and the style is something much different. It's much more of the masonry modern, to use the local vernacular, but really I would say it's a modern looking building. I'd focus on the modern part of that masonry modern form. It's quite linear in nature. It's rectilinear as opposed to having those rounded forms that the previous version had. You can see large cantilevers at the unit patios and balconies and the roof forms. The long expanses of the facade of the building are broken up by wood shading and privacy screens to add some color to the building and to break up the form in its linear nature. This is the view looking at the north facade of this building from the eastern edge of the site between building 4 and building 5, building 5 being the phase 3 of this project. You see the landscape plaza area in between buildings 5 and building 4. And again, this is just demonstrating this change in architectural style. I think you can really make out the linearity of the building and why we felt it important to break up those lines with the vertical wood shade and privacy screen structures. Whereas we had punched openings for the windows previously, now you see floor to ceiling glazing in lieu of that, which again is addressing the market. In addition to the change in architectural style, this building, which is a condominium for sale residential unit building, has a modest amount of ground floor retail, but is primarily condo units. The original version of this had 30 condominium units. In the redesign, and again, this was to address the market for high-end condos and what that consumer is looking for, we have the amount of residential units from 30 to 15. And as you might imagine, that caused the size of the units to double, basically, where they were previously on average about 1,500 square feet. The units in this building today are over 3,200 square feet on average. So very sizable luxury condominium units in this building. So we reduced the amount of units. They grew in size, obviously. And the reason I mentioned that we made that reduction in unit is to now talk about the final modification we made, which is to the southeast parking garage. And in that garage, among other minor changes, we reduced the amount of parking. So I've got some stats in front of me. I'm going to read them, so please bear with me. The original, and this is in Ms. Rodriguez's report, of course, the original parking garage had 142 spaces. The current version of the southeast garage has got just 131, 11 less. Now, the breakdown I think is important. Previously, the 61 of the parking stalls in that garage were reserved for the condominium residents. Because we reduced the amount of condominium units, we also reduced the amount of reserved parkings from 61 to 30. So each unit will have 2 parking stalls. Now that means the reserved office spaces within that garage, which was 62, remains as 62. And the remainder of the parking in the garage is open public parking, shall probably be used by valet as well as the general public coming to the site. That's actually increased. Previously, it was only 19 spaces. Now it's 39. So though the parking amount was reduced, that reduction came strictly from the spaces reserved for the condominium units. Those themselves were reduced. So it really kind of follows. What have I got left here? Okay. A few more shots here. I thought it would be beneficial to see the buildings in situ. Now I mentioned, of course, these buildings are meant to be varied in architecture, yet cohesive in nature, each one of them among this entire campus. Here we are, again, hovering, I guess I would say, from Veterans Park, looking west at the east facade of Building 2 on the left, and you can see the corner of Building 4 South on the right. We're looking down the plaza between the two. That plaza continues to the plaza between Building 3 and 1 in Phase 1. Now we're standing on 7th, facing south. You see the corner of Building 4 here on the left. You see the northwest corner of Building 2 beyond that. And to the right-hand side, you can see some of Building 1 across 7th from Building 2 there. Now we're hovering about the 3rd floor here in the plaza between Building 2 to the left, Building 4 South on the right, and beyond that you can see Building 1 across 7th and Building 3 across 7th as well. So getting a sense of how the plaza of these two buildings continues to the plaza there between those buildings across the street. And I promise I'm almost done, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Finally, here we are again looking at the north facade of Building 4 South. You can see the lushly landscaped plaza between that building and Building 5 just off the screen to the right. And then again, in the background there, we see Building 3 across 7th. And you get a sense of how these buildings, though varied in nature architecturally, are all of a style that is comprehensive for the site, cohesive together, and I think complementary to one another. That's probably it, guys. It is it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Hall. All right, Ms. Rodriguez for the city, please.
So the entire development, as I said, it's that part highlighted in yellow. It's entirely as 9.22 acres, and it's a mix of CBD and community facility zoning. The FAR is solely based on the acres with CBD zoning, giving a ratio of 1.71. So we're only using that 8.59 acres. The approved density per the conditional use is 40 dwelling units per acre, totaling around to 343 units. The proposal will reduce the density to 38 dwelling units per acre, giving the 328 units. So, little background on Atlantic Crossing. The conditional use approved in 2012 allowed for the building height to increase to 60 feet, with the provision that 20% of the units above 48 feet are workforce housing. It also approved the density increase to 40 dwelling units per acre, with the provision that 20% of the units above the 30 dwelling units per acre are workforce housing. The Class 5 approved in 2014 was for a mixed use of retail, restaurant, office, and residential. And then in 2017, the settlement agreement was executed between the city and the developer, which required an east-west right-of-way between building 3 and 6 South. And it also established that the 2013 LDR and comp plan are applicable to all the phases in this project. On that note, I'd also like to correct the staff report as Atlantic Avenue was identified as a primary street and required retail frontage. This is from the 2015 form-based code, so is not applicable for that. So, to continue with the background, in 2017, a Class 2 site plan modification and waivers were approved to meet the east-west road requirements that were previously mentioned in that settlement agreement. Another Class 2 was approved in 2019 to reconfigure the pedestrian plaza between buildings 1 and 3, and then other site plan modifications, including as-built modifications, master sign programs, and the reconfiguration of unit layout and unit distribution were previously approved. So the request includes the reduction of the unit amount in building 4 South, from 30 units to 15 units. This also reduces the total amount from 343 units to 328 units. Due to the change of density, the workforce housing units will also be reduced from 26 to 22 units. There will also be a reduction in the retail square footage, and ultimately these reductions lead to the reduction in the parking spaces provided, which is from 142 spaces to now 131 spaces in that southeast parking garage, which is just below building 2 and 4 South. Also included in the request is the request to modify the exterior elevations and shift the styles from that Mediterranean revival, as the applicant was showing, to now this mix of Mediterranean revival and the masonry modern shown on building 4 South. Also to note again, the analysis of this entire staff report is based on the 2013 LDRs and comp plan per the settlement agreement. So the Class 3 requires partial review of the performance standards. The zoning is still consistent with the future land use, and as for concurrency, the water, sewer, and drainage are not significantly impacted with this modification. The updated TPS letter states that the project is within the TCEA and is exempt from the traffic performance standards. The Phase 2 is required to pay $33,500 for the park impacts fee. The solid waste is still considered a sufficient capacity. And the original approval included a SCAD review that stated that the development will not cause any negative impact for the public schools. And although the project is vested with more units, the reduction of units still requires an updated SCAD review. Overall, the development and modifications still meet the standards in 323. It provides a mix of unit types from studios all the way to 5-bedroom units. 20% of the units above 48 feet and above the 30 dwelling units per acres are workforce housing for low to moderate incomes. The development is providing 22 workforce housing, and the unit mix is more diverse, providing that 4-bedroom and 5-bedroom units. The modifications remain consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the workforce housing units are proportionally distributed, and the overall development will be expanding the housing supply, and those 22 workforce housing will help accommodate the Delray Beach's socioeconomically diverse population. The CBD development standards are considered to be met. The original approval had a density of 40 dwelling units per acre, the 343 units, which was an increase allowed by the conditional use. The modifications will reduce the density to 38 dwelling units per acre at 328 units. This is still above the max 30 dwelling units per acre, so the provisions from the conditional use still stand, and the workforce housing units must be provided, which is the 20% above the units, for the units above the 30 dwelling units per acre, which totals out to 14 workforce housing units, and the 20% for the units above the 48 feet, which is 8 workforce housing units. This totals out to 22 workforce housing total for the entire development. The workforce housing has been proportioned to meet the requirements in 479. And as for parking, the shared parking calculations show a required total of 989 parking spaces, and the request is to eliminate 11 spaces, leaving a total of 1,087 proposed spaces, which meets the requirement. As stated previously, the density is still above the 30 dwelling units per acre, meaning the standards for the density increase in the conditional use must be met. This is shown in 4413I2 in their performance standards. This includes a variation in design to add interest, variation in unit types, and overall unified architectural character with use of common elements, which examples of these type of common elements can be seen on page 7 on the staff report. The board must determine if the modifications maintain compliance with the standards required for the density increase and if it creates an overall unified character. For reference, the above image is the previously approved elevation for Building 2 facing Atlantic, and below is the modifications in this request. So minor, as the applicant showed. And then more for modifications for Building 4 South. You can see the previously approved on the top and the proposed elevation on the bottom. This is facing Building 2. This is the south elevation. The minimum requirements for the architectural elevation found in section 4618A, the development must show proper design concepts and be appropriate with its surroundings. Building 1 and Building 2 are facing Atlantic Ave, and this is also near the Marina Historic District and Veterans Park, so it's appropriate to be to design with the surrounding in mind. The following criteria shall be considered by SPRAB, and if the criteria is not met, the application shall be disapproved. The proposed structure must be in good taste and good design and should contribute to the image of the city. The exterior design shall not materially depreciate the appearance and value of the area, and the structure is in harmony with the general area. These are your board motions, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Rodriguez, do you have a rebuttal or anything else? Mr. Hull, do you have anything else?
No rebuttal, but I'm happy to answer any questions as I can.
Okay, so thank you. And we'll start with some board comments. Mr. Baffer, I'd love to start with you.
Oh, okay. So, I actually like the previous version. I feel like the masonry modern version is too far of a departure from what's currently built, that it no longer seems complementary to me. It seems like it's a totally different development. I know the reason why, as a board, we're seeing so many masonry modern. It's not driven by the fact that architectural styles have changed. It's driven by the fact that those of us who build and develop projects discover that the cheapest building type is a square box. And it's a lot cheaper to build a square box with straight angles than to build arches and curves and all the ornate fenestration that we used to put on Mediterranean style buildings. So we started building different, and that's what people started buying. So I feel like this is something that's being cost driven, financially driven, and the architecture is suffering as a result.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
In general, I actually like masonry modern. I'm just a more modern style, but I think that part of our job is seeing where it fits in with its surrounding areas. And I loved the original. I thought it would look good. I felt like it complemented your building, all the buildings in it. I think it also complemented facing Veterans Park more so than the building that was presented tonight. So I agree with you. I think that the original building with the curves made the property more cohesive. And to me, in my opinion, it gave it more of the feel of not mimicking every building in there. You wanted slight variations. And I felt that the building that you presented today was more of the same as opposed to complementing one another. And that's where I am. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Gray.
I found some contradictions as well, and I agree. The project that was presented before was more conducive and more in line with the Delray Beach look and feel, particularly that close to the beach. What we've done, unless I heard you wrong, what we've done is make the buildings really look all the same. It looks like a mini city just before you go over the bridge. And the previous buildings had the different characters, and that didn't make it feel like such a concrete jungle. And I see the landscaping and such, but it looks very dense to me. It doesn't flow well to what's there, what's going over the bridge. The transition doesn't work for me. Additionally, I think it's a very clever way to get really high-end luxury projects and reduce workforce housing. And there's no way I would support any project that would reduce workforce housing to add more luxury project units.
I just want to step in and just say, in general, like, you're looking at every project on its face. So it just when you're saying there's no way you would support one way or another, you just want to make sure you're keeping in mind that there are different projects and you might see different values in different things. And
I'm aware of that, and that's my intent. The reason for the reduction of the workforce housing, to me, doesn't fall in line with the reason why the abatements are in place at the city and as part of our code. So if we're going to allow for additional height and additional density to get the workforce housing, then I think we should remain true to the reason that those abatements were given in the first place. So in conclusion, the redesign I think is not consistent with the neighborhood. I think you had enough character and separation and differences there previously, and switching to where it is all very unified, and I no longer think it's a good fit within that space, the transition and the surrounding areas.
Okay, Mr. Cohen.
So I see what you're trying to do. You know, not every building should be a copy of the other building. You want variation, but I think the masonry modern switchover is a pretty sharp difference compared to the other buildings in the area. And so I liked the previous building better. There was variation, but it also had that Mediterranean revival look like some of the other buildings. And so that's all I have to say. So.
Thank you. Ms. Purdell.
I agree with everybody. I don't feel that the masonry modern fits in with the project. I understand that it was the Mediterranean was done how many years ago, and things change. However, I think if you drive through our neighborhoods, whether it's a Seagate or Lake Ida or something, you'll see what's being built now is not these block houses anymore. It's going to be more like British colonial or something like that. So if you want a variance, I could see doing something like that. I think it would tie together with the existing buildings better. I also don't think we need any more luxury apartments in the area. We need the 1,500 square foot apartments for people who want to live and work in Dowry Beach. We need that. Whether it's workforce housing, I don't know if that's such a problem, but just for your average school teacher, fireman, whatever, they can't afford to live here because we're building $5 and $6 million condos rather than housing that they need. So I wouldn't be excited about having any more luxury properties. The other thing is I was on SPRAB when the original plan was first brought up, and there was the courtyard area, that center area. It was going to be much more user friendly with a lot of artwork. There was supposed to be at one point it was a large aquarium, and then that was decided that was too much maintenance, and then there was going to be artwork that would span 2 different buildings. I believe in Tampa there's an artist, Tampa or Clearwater, she's done it all over the world actually, but was artwork that goes between the 2 buildings. What happened to all that? I mean,
That is a part of this development as well. That's Janet
still going to be there?
Yep, Mrs. Eckelman is the artist. It spans across 7th there. It'll connect to buildings 4,
Okay, yeah,
2, 1, and 3. We didn't show it in this rendering just not to distract from the architecture of the buildings.
Okay, yeah,
That
because
is
that
still
was
the case.
Yeah, because that was what to me created its own entity, was that it had
Yes,
something
that's
tied
still a part
together.
of the development.
Yeah, but I would have to say the building 2 I think is about as modern as I think fits into that particular area. And as I said, if you don't want to do the Mediterranean, which I understand is, maybe a little passé, there are other ways to go other than masonry modern. And if you look at what's selling in our area, masonry modern is having price reductions on the homes, and they're building British colonial. That's the hot thing right now. So, not an architect, not telling you what to do, but just I think masonry modern's had its day.
All right, so I have to say I concur with my fellow board members. I understand that perhaps the Spanish Mediterranean style is a bit passé and probably needs some freshening up. I won't tell you which sort of style to go with. I do agree, we do as a board see a tremendous amount of masonry modern, which we are pushing back against. I understand why the developer would want to create more luxury housing, but again, as a board, we are looking, and especially I came after the whole Atlantic Crossing kind of controversy, but I was, and as I sit on this board, and I understand, to quote my friend John, to see how the sausage is made in Delray Beach, to understand that we've given up setbacks and density for more housing, which we're, as was said very well, that we really need it. We almost can't afford to I mean, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. People just need a place to live, whether they're part of affordable housing or not. We really have a housing crisis, quite frankly. So I would be hesitant to retreat on that as well. So I think that with our board attorney's kind of input, I think that it would probably be best to make a motion for a continuance, but that's sort of your decision, whether you want us to vote or to move for a continuance and go back.
Yeah, basically, we give that option to you because you can get a continuation with direction, bring it back whenever they can get you on the next agenda, and then you have the opportunity to come back before this board and present the new ideas, or you can, you can ask for a vote, and then you immediately, at the next time it can be put on the commission appealable items, could have the option to appeal for a fee. So it's up to you if you'd like that direction, or if you want finality so that it can be appealed.
I don't know how to respond to that question. I would really need to consult with my client to answer that. So my options are to ask for a vote, or continuation.
Or a continuation.
What would be the benefit of a continuation?
Continuation, it'll come back to this board, so you'll actually get to present it, and then if they make a decision at the next time, then you have that opportunity to appeal. It doesn't go away. But if you let them make a decision, that's a final decision except up to appeal. So you would have to actually put in the fee to appeal it, and then bring it to the commission for their final decision.
Yeah, you have more options with a continuance than you would with if we voted it down today.
Okay, I guess a continuance then.
Okay, so could someone please make a motion to move with direction?
And if you guys can just kind of list some of the directions that you're giving. I think you guys have mentioned kind of consistency and like unified design elements and being consistent with the surrounding area. I think those are some of your main concerns. As far as affordable housing, I think as long as it's within the constraints that the former boards and the commission have put on it, it just has to be within that percentage. So that probably doesn't need to be in the motion. Just wanted to mention that. But if you have any other specifics you guys want to put out there, otherwise you can just kind of say so moved, and the things that I've said have.
Well, the only other thing is it's not only just about the affordable housing. It's the idea that the number of units has decreased substantially, and here we've made all these concessions for this incredibly large, complicated project for housing, whether it's affordable housing or not. And now, 10 years later, after the great migration from the north to the south and COVID, we're under so much pressure as a city for housing.
And I do think that the concerns have probably been heard by him. I just think as far as the motion, it should probably be more about, the specific design elements and those kind of things, because I think once you're getting into the determination of how big their unit should be, that kind of stuff, you're starting to design from the dais. So just noting, I think it's been noted on the record, your concerns, but I still think as far as your motion, the continuance should be more related to the performance standards that you guys have kind of laid out that are problematic.
Not to disagree because you're the lawyer, but isn't that one of the things they're asking us to agree to? Is that where we'll change the number of units to a much smaller number of units?
It is, but it's also within their. Right. It's also within the land development regulations and also the the unified plan that they originally came forward with, and the incentive. I'm sorry, the incentive that they would provide the 20%. So they're still within their range.
What was passed 10 years ago was a certain number of units. So I think that it needs to be part of our motion that what was passed we don't agree with. It was passed by SPRAB 10 years ago.
But we don't agree with changing it.
Right.
We
don't agree
wanna
with changing it.
Keep it the same as it was passed. And I also, we didn't mention it, is the reduction in parking. In a very ironic way, I'm not in favor of reducing the parking. You know, so you reduce the units, then you can reduce the parking. That's just another clever way of saving cost, because by far the most expensive floor in this building is the basement. That they spend more per square foot for those parking spots than they do for the penthouse with the nicest view, because it's below grade. So I think you're absolutely right that we don't really have the right to change that formula, that program that was approved with the original approval for the number of units or number of parking spaces.
I'm just saying, as far as your review purview, you know, you're really looking at, does it fit within the requirements? And so as long as it does fit within the requirements, that's your review purview, you know. Does it fit within it? And she's told you that it does.
I think we're saying we don't think it does.
Okay.
Right.
It's a major change. They're asking us to take a total change, and we're saying we don't approve the change. That's all.
Correct.
Right? That's my understanding. Yeah.
Sorry, we're not buying it.
You guys can make whatever motion you want. I'm just trying to explain to you what I think, you know, the things that you guys have mentioned that like are within the purview of the changing. As far as the modification, when you're looking at like a development the first time or the modification, you're really looking at, does this modification meet the code? Not does this modification, is it better than the original, or is it the same as the original? You're trying to figure out whether it falls into those.
I think for the most part, we appreciate and follow your guidance. It's not very often that we're not on the same track. And I think here, the primary issue why is different is if we allow the change, we allow the variation, the deviation away from the incentives that were provided.
Correct.
And I am not on board with that.
Correct. This is a very long and complicated project, and this is, yeah. So go ahead. I'm so sorry.
C over here under optional board motions, not use the word denial, but is there some way to reword that? Because that includes reduction of the number of units, reduction of the retail. I mean, it pretty much covers everything that we're saying. Reduction of the parking. It's not that it's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. It's that it's inconsistent with the approved plans that we were given.
Right.
But I'm not saying it, so.
I guess my question is, so the DDA approved this, right? Which other boards have approved this? The planning?
I think that's the only one, and then you said it had been presented to CRA, but they don't make a recommendation one way or the other.
That's correct, yes. So it went to DDA, and then for the CRA, it's just put in a memo.
And just a little bit of a background, I was on the CRA board when we approved this back in 2012. And affordable housing was part of the forefront of our decision-making process. And I think it is more crucial now. So I'm not changing their desire for their product type. I'm not commenting against that. I'm commenting against the agreement that are in place for what would be developed based on the incentives that were allowed. And I do definitely think that is in our purview.
But CRA? So they have a memo, or not yet?
It was included, I believe it's in their
Is
February.
And they approve this?
It's not anything that they approve.
Okay, but what did
they just want to be aware of any, I think it's class 3 and above, any modifications or applications that are going to be coming through, so we put them in a memo and then they review the memo. We don't receive any approval
You don't
or
receive any
anything.
feedback from them?
I
or-
did not receive any feedback for this project.
Okay. Because, I kind of agree with our attorney is that, what is our purview? And the changes still meet the requirements. And I thought this was more about like the architectural style, personally. And that they're going from the Mediterranean Revival to the Masonry Modern. That's what I thought.
It's a change
That's what I
to
thought this
this, the class 3
However,
site plan
that's not the
modification.
request. The request isn't just the architectural style.
Mm-hmm.
The request encompasses more.
Right.
It's changing the unit. mix.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if that's our decisions to make. So that's what I'm grappling with.
The
Not
complete
to argue, but
request-
that's what they're asking us to make. They're asking us to make a decision on the architectural style, on the amount of parking spaces, on the number of units. Those are all things we've been asked to make a decision on. So either we have that ability to make the decision or we don't.
Okay.
Not arguing.
That's fine. All right, Linda, you want to try to make the motion?
No, I don't.
I'm not allowed to make the motion.
How
so-
about our architect down there make the motion?
I'm not arguing.
Or builder, our builder. I'm sorry.
All right, so I'm thinking you're right, C, and then we would just say
Yeah.
instead
With-
of deny,
yeah,
it
some
would be
rewording.
continue it
Yeah,
for continuance.
go for it.
All right, so move for continuance to the Class 3 site plan modification 2022-191 for Atlantic Crossing Phase 2, including the reduction of the number of units in Building 4S, reduction of the retail commercial area in Building 4S, modifications to the exterior elevations for both Buildings 4S and 2, and the reduction of parking spaces in the southeast parking garage by finding that the request is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and does not meet criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
And a second, please.
Second.
And if you can please call roll, Rochelle.
Okay. Allison Thomas,
Yes.
Linda Perdue,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
Carol Perez.
She's not here.
She's
That's right, she stepped down, sorry.
Stepped down.
Stephen Cohen,
No.
Annette Gray,
Yes.
Dana Adler.
Yes. Okay, so we have a move to continuance. We will see you soon. Thank you. Okay. Now we have reports and comments. If we can get Carol back.
So,
Yes, please.
thank you. So, for the records, my name is Rafiq Ibrahim. I'm the principal planner. Next meeting is going to be November 29th, which is the 5th Wednesday of November. This was moved from the original meeting day of November 8th to after the Thanksgiving. And the meeting following is December 13th, the second Wednesday of December. And the LDR amendment was adopted. The chapter 2 was adopted October 17th. And board appointments moved to the City Commission November 7th. And I think this is the reason that we postponed like the November 29th, we changed it. The new board will start November 1st, eligible for full 2 years in terms. and I think that's it for today. Last meeting, I mentioned that we will be presenting the new amendment, Chapter 2, but I think it's perhaps more beneficial to present it to the new board on November, so we would all get more insights into what Chapter 2 entails and the new board responsibilities, actions, and recommendations. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so just to reiterate, Mr. Abraham, our original meeting for November was November 8th. Because the board decisions are not going to be made until November 7th, staff needs time to put that all together properly. So they moved our meeting from November 8th to the 29th. So if you could look on your calendars, just make sure you're okay with that. And then December 13th, that hasn't changed. And then, yeah, so I guess I got a call from Marianne today. You should, if you haven't gotten your calls, you probably will. So we'll see what happens. Very exciting next month.
I just had a quick comment as well, if you don't mind. Just as a reminder, if you guys haven't done your ethics training, they're due every 2 years, so just make sure that you do that. If you haven't done it and you want to email me, you can let me know, and I can make sure the clerk's office gets in touch with you to do that. And then also, I think it was mentioned last meeting, but they are working on doing like a video training, legal training, Anthea and Lynn together. And so that will come out via your email. So just keep an eye out on it. It'll be something that you can just watch and then just send in a little certificate saying that you did it. So or click on something. So if reappointed, yes.
Yes, if we make the cut. Right. So is there anything else from
Nothing else
board
from me.
attorney? Any other comments?
Yeah, can you explain the continuance versus if we had voted it down? 'Cause I didn't
Sure.
quite get that.
Yeah, if you guys had voted it down, then it would just go directly to commission at their next commission meeting as an appealable item. And during that, they're actually supposed to like review basically what was put before you guys. So they would have this exact application and review it from, they do a de novo review, so they actually look at it, decide on their own whether they like it. It's not like we overturn the SPRAB board's recommendation or anything like that. But with the continuance, they at least get the opportunity to go kind of change their application, make the modifications based on your recommendations, and then they'll bring it back to you when they're ready. I mean, or they could not. They could come back and have the exact same application. That's very possible. And then, they have the opportunity to appeal after that. But at this point, they can make changes, and, they can do as much or as little as they want, and then bring it back. Did that?
Yeah. When did we make that change where if it were masonry modern or Art Deco would go up to the
This works with the 2013 LDR and comp plan, so they will not be working with the new code.
Oh, but did we make that change already?
We did make that change already.
When, like 6 months ago or something?
I believe so, yes. It's just the thing that this project follows with the 2013 LDR codes.
Because it's grandfathered.
And yeah, so anything that's approved now and changed, it does not change anything for this project of how the approval process is. It sticks with the 2013 language.
I see. I'm just curious, like, whether that's meeting the intent or not, because I'm still seeing masonry modern, like, pretty much every proposal.
Yeah, so any new applications coming in with Masonry Modern, that will do with the new approval that I think it has to go for City Commission prior, and that one has been approved.
Okay.
All right, so happy Thanksgiving. If there's nothing else, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.
Adjourned.